Hi, I'm James from Chaosium. I sat down with Jeff Richard, who is the creative director of Chaosium, and we talked about HeroQuesting. HeroQuests are a pretty core mechanic to RuneQuest, and they are also important in the world of Glorantha in general. Jeff talks a little bit about what exactly HeroQuests are and explains how you can best run them in your games. I'll jump across the interview in just a moment, but first, please remember to subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Well, so a hero quest is a type of adventure where your player characters start interacting with the other world, the hero plane, the god's realm, the spirit world, whatever we want to call it. And they go in and they interact with archetypes and mythological powers and gods and spirits. And then when they return to the regular world of their adventures, they usually come back with some boon, some power that is, or ability that is beyond what is in the core rules. And they also often come up with a bane or some sort of a curse or a geese based on the actions that they did in this. And it's also boons can include a power. It can be a cool magical item from the legendary realms. It can be a spirit or even a god that your character manages to ally themselves with or gain as a protector. So it's basically it's got two parts to it if we think about it from gameplay. First is it lets us do an adventure that feels more like a dream quest, more like a fairy tale or something out of a myth, where the player is dealing with things that might be normally impossible to stage in a game. We just wouldn't accept it because, oh my gosh, how can we deal with this 500-foot tall talking mountain? You know, normally that would stretch credibility. On a hero quest, that is a thing that your characters can do. And then the other thing that's great about HeroQuest, it's a way for us to get powers or abilities that aren't normally possible or aren't normally there in the core rules.
When you look at other games and you start talking about venturing into the god's realm or something like that, one of the assumptions might be, okay, you get powerful enough until you're able to tangle in the god's realm, and then you get some kind of translocation spell and you'll enter it, you'll do a couple of dungeons there and you'll come back out. You alluded to the sort of dreamlike quality of HeroQuest. This isn't just a dungeon delve into a god's realm or whatever. It's much more complicated than that.
I don't know if complicated is the right word. It's a word so much as it's different from that. So let's think of examples in other games where your characters might go into a realm where the laws of the normal laws of physics, the normal laws of causality just aren't applicable there. And you know that normally we associate that when a protagonist goes on some sort of a dream quest, goes into the other world where, it's possible that a door is 30 feet away or it could be 3 miles away, and it could change just basically depending on where you are at a particular moment. It's there really isn't much like that in contemporary RPGs. I think the closest I can think of is, if you remember, in Mage and in Werewolf, you could sometimes go into an other world where there were weird spirits, and the laws of physics didn't really apply. But not that much was done with that in either of those games. In a hero quest, in RuneQuest, when you hero quest, you're really just doing this is kind of, where your hero ultimately wants to end up, because when you go there, you get to redefine the mythology of the setting.
So a hero quest is also something that exists within the world of Glorantha.
Yes.
How is a hero quest different in that how it's perceived by the denizens of Glorantha, as opposed to how we see it?
Well, when you have a hero quest that goes into the other side, they're dealing with the realm of mythology, and you come back and you say, "Hey, I went to the other side and I did this and I saw that and I experienced this and I came back with this magic," and that story becomes part of Glorantha. It becomes how we understand the mythological realm. There's kind of two ways to understand the mythological realm. Grandpa said that his grandpa heard from his grandpa that Orlanth lives on top of a mountain and there's an eagle with 3 white feathers, and if you climb down the mountain and grab the eagle with 3 white feathers, you can gain the magic windberry. you know think how fairy tales and myths work. Well, a hero quester goes into the realm, and you look for, hey, here's the great high mountain, and you climb up there, and there is a storm god there, but because of what I'm doing, hey, the storm god up there, that wasn't Orlanth. It was Storm Bull on top of the big high mountain. And I went down, and I couldn't find an eagle. Instead, what I found a griffin, and I killed the griffin, and I didn't get any winning berries. But I got this cool thing from the griffin. Its head, it still talks to me. Say hi, Harold, and you experienced it. It's real. That is the myth, and the people that you tell that to, that becomes their story of what's there in the other world.
As a game master, how do you go about running a hero quest successfully? Because it can be quite unusual to create that kind of atmosphere and that kind of story.
Well, okay, so in some ways it's easier. You're willing to roll with associations. You don't have to worry so much actually about lore or specifics, because one of the things I always do on a hero quest is I don't name any of the entities. I give them a description. Hey, it's a big angry storm god is there, and I let the characters, the players, go, well, that I worship a big angry storm god, but my storm god isn't like, I don't think it's like that, so I don't think that's Orlanth. I think that's the other that's some other really angry storm god. And so you try to let the players make the associations that they are able to make. And so in many ways, it's a lot easier because I don't have to sit there and do a huge deep dive into names and myths the same way. What I try to do is imagine a dreamscape where there are, so I've got a little map that I have of the other world. It's going to be in the Game Master's book. I've shared it a couple of times on Facebook, and it's an association of archetypes. Over here is the red is the red goddess is over there. Hey, over here, if we go over there, that's where the Cloud Brothers are. Hey, over there is where the womb of the goddess is, and so forth. And over there's the void. And I let the players start making free associations and moving around in this dreamscape. And in many ways, that's a lot easier. On the other hand, the difficulty about that is you have fewer handrails. You have to be willing to let players and your own imagination run wild.
From a gameplay perspective, if you are leading up to a hero quest, it's going to be a pretty big thing in your story. Do you have any advice on how to make that feel consequential, how to lead to it from a narrative perspective? Should you feel that you really only want to do one of these as sort of the climax of a season, or is it fine to litter them, all throughout? How should you treat these within your gameplay flow?
What I would always try to make sure that any hero quest, just like any big battle or any big event within the game, is significant. And there's kind of 3 approaches that I've thrown into games. There's hero quests that you just find that you're on the other world. So, for example, I've been running the cradle scenario the old RQ2 cradle scenario from the Pavis book. And in that, the characters are now in the cradle, and they're realizing they're on the other world. Things don't link the way that they normally physics just don't work the way that they normally associate it, and space is different, and so that is a big event for the players, that they're dealing with these weird spirits and mythological entities, but they didn't have a huge buildup for it. It just basically was they ran, they fled, and they found themselves in the streamscape. That's one way of doing it. It's memorable. Another way is you have the players make the decision. We want to enter the hero world. Okay, well, you guys have got to call in favors, and you got to bring priests, and they'll be dancing, and you've got to pay for this big ceremony and all of that. And again, that gets the players invested, and it triggers for them, oh, something big and cool is going to go on. And then the final one type that I do is kind of a variation of the first. Hey, you guys are on a lonely road. You're trying to get to the place. There's these mists, and you find yourself, hey, there's an inn here. Last time you were on this road, there was nothing there, and it's the magical place. So in other words, I guess what I'm saying is you do all the tropes that you would do from fairy tales, from legends, from myths, and the key thing is signal to your players that, hey, this is going to be a little bit different, and the rules might not work the way you're used to them working. Make an analogy to video games. So in quite a lot of video games, you have things that are like a Heroquest. I'm going to go for a very old video game, but if you remember, I think it was called the Jade Empire by BioWare from the early 2000s. In the act, I believe it's in Act 3, or maybe it's in the beginning of Act 4 in the game. I think it was a 4-act game. Your character dies. You've failed. And you find yourself in the spirit world filled with dead spirits, and you're wandering around dealing with things. That's a Heroquest. You're in the other world. It no longer works the way that it normally does. If you play Cyberpunk 2077, the game there, and you find yourself in the net dealing with these AI entities, and everybody is blippy code, that's a Heroquest. Right? So it's not so much that it is for advanced players or advanced GMs, but it's an opportunity to do something very different and very strange, where you feel like you're dealing with the with kind of the innards, the very guts of the setting.